Hello, and welcome to the Unwatchables. This is a show where we talk movies, but not just any movies. Here we discuss what we call one-timers and no-timers. But today is a little bit different if you're a returner. Today we're talking about a movie, and none of us can agree whether or not it's a one-timer or a no-timer. We have some differing opinions, and this special show will be talking about Aquaman.
All right, well, I'm Marcus.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Kylie.
All right, so let's talk about this Aquaman that came out in 2018. Matt, what were your opinions about Aquaman overall?
Overall, I did not like the movie. It was boring. It was too long. I did laugh at parts, but for the wrong reason. It was cheesy. It was poorly written. I didn't like the performances, especially Jango Fett, whatever that guy's
the
name.
dad.
The dad.
Aquaman's father.
Yeah, Aquaman's father.
He's shrunken like a raisin.
And I didn't like the whole CG making him look young. But yeah, I also didn't like the music. I thought the music was crap. Music's important in movies.
Kylie, what were your thoughts overall?
I agree with the music. I think that totally changed the tone sometimes. It just made it really goofy, and pretty much what I thought overall is that it was a really goofy movie, and I thought it was fun at times. I was entertained. There were parts that I liked, but overall, not a huge fan. I'm not a DC person, so I struggled through it.
Yeah, I mean, this Aquaman movie, there was definitely a lot of things in it that were just weird. I mean, so yeah, you start off this movie with the worst CG face that you've ever seen in a movie. I mean, the first movie I remember seeing that for was Tron Legacy. Remember in Tron Legacy, Jeff Bridges' face is CG.
Yeah, and that's at least it's early on.
Yeah, that was
like we saw Rogue One.
Well, no, remember in Tron Legacy, it was for the whole movie because the villain.
Yeah, but like I meant like in terms of like what movie was doing it first.
Oh yeah.
And then like like Rogue One did pretty good with like Tarkin for the most part.
Tarkin was that's what I was gonna say. So like when Tron Legacy, when it came out and they did those effects, right?
Yeah.
You think to yourself, oh, this is a brand new technology. There's a little more leeway, right?
Exactly.
And they were also too in Tron, they were in a computer world, so it's like you kind of give him more leeway. In this, with the dad's face, I haven't seen Jango Fett since Jango Fett. I haven't seen him since episode 2, and his face is awful. Like like Matt and I, we watched it together, and I looked over to Matt, and I was like, "What's wrong with his face?" And then later on in the movie, I mean, you're looking at this guy, and you think to yourself, they couldn't find any other actor. They couldn't have found another actor that was like they could have just aged up.
I mean, even him, like people are talented with wigs and makeup these days.
Yeah,
they don't have to de-age somebody.
I mean, they de-aged him dreadfully. Like look at like Forrest Gump. Remember how they aged up Sally Fields?
Yeah.
I mean, so
it can be done.
This movie right off the bat, you're like, okay, what am I getting into? When you look at Nicole Kidman and this guy, and you're like, oh, okay. And then as the movie goes on, like the first point of conflict that really happens is Aquaman when he's on that submarine, right?
Yeah.
When that happened, that scene, I mean, if you're listening to this, you might not think it was that bad, but like Matt and I were just dying hysterically when his father is getting crushed by that torpedo.
Yeah, and then he's gonna just kill himself to make the sun go away with a stick of C4, whatever that was.
And Aquaman's like halfway up the ladder.
Yeah, he's just looking at him.
And he's like, help me, help my dad, and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't know how to help you or nothing. And it's like...
You killed people.
Yeah.
You're a bad person.
And it was so bad. Like, I think they were trying to go for the, like, Spider-Man 1, kind of angle of, like, you didn't stop, like... an episode, remember how in Spider-Man 1, remember how an Uncle Ben dies because Peter Parker failed to act, right? So I think they were trying to do that whole thing, like look at this, like
that was so.
That was done well.
But it's also a very different dynamic. Like that was someone Peter cared about, which we can then care about. But if Aquaman doesn't care about this person, why should we care about it?
Well, I think the whole thing they were trying to go for was to get the hero to like always be good, because then like there's unintended consequences when the hero isn't good. I think that's what they were trying to go for, but it looked terrible.
See, like. I would agree with you. I mean, I would be okay with that point if there actually was a consequence from this Mantis guy, or Manta, Black Manta,
right?
Yeah. He didn't do anything. I mean, he tried to kill him, but he won the battle, and this guy has nothing else to do. Like, he didn't affect the Atlanteans at all, which I think that's where they failed with them. Like, he needed to have more of an effect with what they were doing. They just gave him the suit. He went over to go and try to kill him, and then
because apparently Black Manta was working for the brother.
Yeah,
Patrick.
Yeah,
Wilson.
but like
because
he needed to have an effect on the story at some point for the first scene to pay off.
Well, because the only
your opening scene in this guy's he's a side character.
Black Manta, besides the cool fight scene in Sicily, or that fight scene in Sicily,
which
was the Mamma Mia fight scene.
Yeah,
but before that, like I mean, the only thing he did that impacted the plot was the fact that like Patrick Wilson is using him for a false flag. Because remember, because Black Manta is the one that orchestrates the submarine, right, to attack the Atlanteans when they're gathered together with Dolph Lundgren in his water destroyed palace. But you could have cut him out after that. That was the full extent of how he was.
He didn't need to be the one to do that. That could have been done in other ways. And I think he needed to come in at the end. I don't know what they're planning for the sequel. Obviously, there's a sequel because
he's coming back.
The end credit scene. But I feel like he needed to like get betrayed by the Ocean Master and then have them kind of have a dynamic or something. I don't know. I would have preferred something like that.
That's true. Also, too, I don't know if it's politically correct or not, but the one character in the film that's black is called Black Manta. The one guy.
It's in the comics. I think.
Yeah, no, and it's in the comic, but I just thought that was an extra added element. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think?
About Black Manta?
Yeah, or just everything.
Well, about Black Manta in particular, I think that he's just a really boring secondary villain that you don't really need, because you have your primary villain, which is King Orm, or the Ocean Master, which is Aquaman's brother, and he's the one causing all the trouble, and Black Manta is just he's just a human, you know? He's weak, and he fiddles with the Atlantean technology, which, by the way, how does he even know how to do that? And then he gets tossed in the sea, basically, after a couple of minutes of fighting, and he's just
there on the raft.
Just there.
And that's it.
Yeah, the only purpose he served was to set up a second movie. That was it.
Mm-hmm. And that's not, I mean, I get it. I get the business behind that, but I never agree with that in terms of a story. Like, if you're writing something to write it for the next movie, you're already in the wrong.
Well, I think probably what happened with Black Manta is probably the suits on Warner Brothers were like, we need another villain. Mm-hmm. We don't only want the Ocean Master.
Yeah, that's why he needed to be stronger in the movie and throughout the movie.
Yeah, you just need to be connected more. I mean, we've seen it often happen in superhero films where you see multiple villains. I mean, look at like Batman Begins has 2, right? I mean, The Dark Knight has 3 technically, right? Because you have
Talia.
Oh no! Oh, sorry, just
Dark Knight.
Yeah. You have
Joker.
3. Joker, Harvey Dent, and Scarecrow.
Yeah, I mean,
Scarecrow's in the film.
Yeah, he's in the film.
I mean, I'm just saying,
like,
you see 3 villains in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying.
You see 3 villains, but 2 of them pertain to the story. And you can see that that's a perfect example of using 2 villains.
Exactly.
Good.
Like, that's, yeah, I feel like, so it's not a cardinal sin that you can only have 1 villain, but, like, you can have 2.
Spider-Man 3.
Oh,
yeah,
Spider-Man 3 was
true.
cardinal sin.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it usually doesn't work. I mean, usually if your villain is strong enough, you only need 1.
Yeah, you need 1, and then maybe you can get away with a side villain.
I mean, the Ocean Master was very weak, though, as a villain. Mm-hmm. I hated him.
You hated him?
I hated him. He's so boring. God,
I just think
boring.
Patrick Wilson is boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the dynamic that it's this brother, half brother?
Yeah,
half brother.
Yeah.
So they're biologically related.
Through the mother.
Yeah, through the mother. I mean, in a lot of ways, Aquaman copies a lot of the same beats as Black Panther. A lot of the same thing, you know. You have these 2 guys that are both related. They're both going for the king role or whatever of their country, or in this case, Atlantis. But yeah, their chemistry was just so off.
Yeah.
You couldn't believe that they're brothers.
Nope.
I mean, even though they're half brothers, I mean, like,
they look different too.
Yeah, they look different, and like Jason Momoa is like, he's a tall guy. He's very built, and Patrick Wilson is like he's 5 years away from being cast as a dad in every movie. Like, he is the perfect like dad that's not overweight.
Oh, he's been a dad. If you've seen all the Insidious movies,
he is a dad.
Yeah.
And Conjuring and stuff. He's just so like perfect at that role of being like your neighbor or the dad, but yeah, he just doesn't have charisma. I just think he has no charisma at all.
No, I think he's actually kind of decent at being creepy, because it took me out of Aquaman, because all I could think of was the Insidious movies and the Conjuring movies, and just thinking of him in a horror role. So seeing him as a villain, that was just really cheesy and weird to me.
Well, what do you think about the fact that it was James Wan who made it? Who's the same guy that did Insidious and Conjuring and Saw?
Yeah, that makes no sense to me.
So they he did Fast and Furious 7. And then, so he graduated from horror to Fast and Furious 7 to Aquaman. And I gotta say, even though movies aren't great, he's making a lot of money for this.
Yeah,
I mean, Fast and Furious 7 was
money. Yeah.
That was the first Fast and Furious to make $1 billion.
Well, it was the fastest to make $1 billion too.
I don't know if maybe 8 might have been more. But that was the one with Paul Walker, Send Off.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that It made a lot of money for.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think
Unfortunately, it was sad.
Paul Walker's death like that propelled the movie. But anyways, like, yeah, James Wan. That's another thing too. Like, I guess we could talk about James Wan a little bit. Like, is he like good at directing films? I mean, I know he's creative. I like Conjuring 1. Like, you look at a film of his and you're like, oh, that was amazing.
Did he do the Annabelle movies too? Or did he just do
I don't
Conjuring?
think he did Annabelle's.
Yeah, directing, yeah. Insidious, Conjuring, Saw.
He did, like, Death Wish, I think, 2007. Remember? We saw that together, man. I remember with Kevin Bacon.
Did he do that movie?
He did do
Death
that movie.
Sentence.
Oh, Death Sentence. That was what
that movie was not bad.
I actually liked this.
That
That was highly underappreciated. I think it came out, like, 2007, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, he did not do Annabelle.
Well, I think with Insidious and Conjuring, I think that as a director, he does a good job of setting up the story to create stakes. And I think that for Aquaman, the stakes were a little bit confusing to me because there were these two side stories going on, and one of them being, you know, King Orm and his desire to go to war with the land people, I guess. And so they did that one attack. Yeah, and in the very beginning, there was the attack with all the tidal waves and the ships, but that was the only thing that came of that. Nothing else about the war came to fruition. The stakes just didn't seem very high because I think it would have benefited for maybe one more attack from the Atlanteans just to push people. Yeah, because really it only happened once, and so the Earth people didn't. I mean, they could pretty much go about their day after that. They weren't ever really.
I mean, you raise a really good point because in a lot of ways, I mean, I think I mentioned this already. Like Aquaman and Black Panther, in a lot of ways, share some similarities. Because I mean, in this film, Ocean Master wants to unite the 7 kingdoms of the ocean to conquer the Earth people, and because it's perceived things that Earthlings have done, right? The same thing in Black Panther, but the difference is the cousin Michael B. Jordan. He wants to, you know, free like black people across the world, right? Or get them to raise up arms or whatever. But like, I feel like in Black Panther, because it's more based in reality, you don't have to explain as much that cause. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you understand where Michael B. Jordan's coming from to an extent, right off the bat. But like with Aquaman, yeah, like Ocean Master, like what you mentioned, Kylie, like what is he actually gaining from this conflict with? And we just saw too, continuity wise, this film takes place maybe like a year after Justice League. So we've just seen an alien invasion in which Steppenwolf comes down and he grabs the cube from the Atlanteans, the Amazonians, and he grabs the third one, right? I forgot where some like underground or whatever. So like we've already known that there's alien entities, and like I just don't understand like why out of nowhere does he want to conquer the Earthlings? Like you said, there's no actual real reason why he's actually like wants to have that done.
Well, I think, and I don't know if they're trying to make a really strong statement with this, but the reason was just that there was so much litter in the ocean. But I mean, if we're being real, that's been happening for so long. You know, there's tons of trash in the ocean, and so part of the tidal waves was washing that all back up on shore, which I understand that motivation. I just think that for the humans, a bunch of their boats got washed up, and that was pretty much it. The stakes never were any higher than that.
You're right. Like, the stakes would have been higher if, like, in Atlantis there was, like, toxic goo. Or, like, if people were, like... If Atlanteans were dying from the... I mean, don't you think, Matt? Like, if Atlanteans were actually affected, don't you think they would be in favor of the war?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like to your point, like, I mean, they didn't... In terms of, like, stakes and, like... They didn't flesh anything out. Because, like, yeah, we watched, like, the people reporting on it. And they're like, oh, Atlanteans are real. We know this is a thing. And yeah, nothing like that came. I think the climax should have been them going out to wage war on it, and then Aquaman stops them instead of them just fighting. You know, it was like a pre-war to the war that he wanted.
Well, that pre-war was only happening so that he can get the crab people on his side.
Yeah,
so in order to get the crab people, he had to kill the crab people.
Yeah, I get that, but
which makes sense.
I would have preferred that he already had the crab people, or the end of the war should have been him like marching up the ocean to go kill everybody. I think it would have been stronger. But it's funny, it's interesting because like there's a lot of movies that have bad guys in them who are essentially trying to take over the world. And sometimes it works. Like you look at Sauron in Lord of the Rings. He's just evil. He's
evil for being
evil.
What
is he gaining out of? I mean,
Nothing.
is it worth killing the human race and the elves so his orcs can run around? And I mean, you can kind of always ask that question. So that didn't bother me too much, but the fact that they talked about it throughout and then it had no payoff, that's the thing that bothers me.
Yeah, and wasn't there, I don't know if it was a prophecy or something, but Aquaman was destined to be the person to bring together the land people and the ocean people.
Because that's how it was like before, right?
Yeah.
But there never ended up being any war between them, so he didn't really bring anyone together, he just became the king, right?
Yeah.
I guess he becomes the Ocean Master, because does he technically unite the seven kingdoms?
Yeah.
So he literally has the exact same power that his brother wanted, right?
Whenever that is, yeah.
To be
running the oceans.
He runs the waters.
So, I mean, maybe it's all about part 2, you know? Maybe that'll all come into part 2, but... I mean, the whole movie was about that, and you're right. There's no payoff to it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about the cast. I gotta say, So Matt and I, we watched this movie recently called Replicas that had the worst acting I've seen in a big budget movie in a long time. And what was her name? Alicia?
It's not a big budget movie, but...
Well, anyways,
a movie with a big actor, Keanu Reeves, I guess.
Yeah.
Alice Eve?
Alice Eve. She was dreadful in Replicas. But what I was going to say...
a separate point.
But what I was going to say in Aquaman, that has some of the worst acting I've seen in a big budget film, in that when the guy that plays middle-aged...
Yeah. He's not even middle, he's like young age.
He's like 20.
The guy kind of looks like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, the guy that
young Aquaman.
Yeah, when he's trained with William Dafoe on the beach, and he's learning the staff move that like literally. So you know it's gonna come back in the future, right? You know, because it's foreshadowing, right? You know it's gonna come back, but literally like that staff move just looks like it's just a shield. Like it looks
it looked kind of lame.
Yeah, it kind of so it looked lame. And that guy was just a terrible actor. That kid, whatever he was, 21, 22.
I was hoping he was just going to spear him and kill him. I would have preferred him just
to throw.
No.
Jason or Aquaman.
Aquaman killed the brother. I mean, make it a little real.
Well, I like the fact that
if Superman can kill people, Aquaman.
I actually like the fact he doesn't kill his brother, because it's like I like that aspect of forgiving the bad guy sometimes. I think in this case, since it's his brother, I was okay with him not killing his brother.
If they did it like a la Black Panther, you know, where it had a lot more emotion and heart, and that was a pretty beautiful scene. But
because he dies in the sunset.
That would have been cool. But there's like a freaking I mean, I don't.
But I was just gonna say, like, this film, I don't know, the acting, it wasn't like... I mean, there's some people I like. I mean, well, first off, Willem Dafoe looks like he's about 5'2" in this movie. I don't know why that was.
Looks like he just crawled out of the grave.
Yeah, he looks like he crawled out of the grave. Looks like a little tiny man. I don't know why everyone in this movie looks so tiny. Like, I don't think Jason Momoa is 6'8". Everyone in this film just looks like a little baby, man. Like, Jango Fett looks like a little baby. Willem Dafoe looks like a little baby. Amber Heard looks...
looked great, though.
Yeah, she looks fine even when they dress her up as a homeless old woman. She didn't look terrible, I guess, but, like... I feel like the person that stands out, the glaring main actor that I didn't like, was Amber Heard.
Yeah, she was bad.
I just feel like she was by far the worst main
her hair
character.
Looked bad. Her hair was too bright.
It reminded me too much of like they were copying Ariel. Literally,
it just looked like a wig.
Yeah, but also too the idea of like she's
too much
this
like a wig.
But she's like this water woman, red hair. You know what I mean? It kind of reminded me a lot. Did it remind you of Little Mermaid a little bit with Ariel? But like bright red hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think it kind of takes away from her character, because when they were figuring out, you know, all the clues and whatnot to find the trident, she was the smart one. She was the one that memorized the message. She figured everything out. She's the one with the really brilliant, you know, water bending powers and everything. And I think just making her look like a bombshell was such a bummer. It just takes away from her character.
Especially in like that dress they had her in at one point.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Or the dress when it was Mamma Mia in Sicily.
No, the glowing sort of jellyfish.
Yeah,
looking.
when they were gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. When the fight scene, it's the big volcano fight scene into the water.
Yeah. And in case, you know, listeners are confused about Mamma Mia, there's a scene that looks like it was shot in
so
like
we gotta talk
Mamma
about this.
Mia.
So Aquaman, we'll jump right to it. So Aquaman...
Right before he fights Black Manta.
So Aquaman has... It feels like Aquaman has its own unique, in my opinion. Aquaman has its own tones. Yeah, it has its own unique movie feel until about the scene where like he's about to fight his brother. After he fights his brother, the movie feels like they literally stole ideas from like 4 other movies. Like when he fights his brother, it reminded me so much of when Thor fights Hulk in Ragnarok. And then after that, they eventually go to like the Sierra Desert, which you see in a lot of the trailers, or not Sierra
National
Desert,
Treasure?
the Sahara Deserts, the Sahara Deserts. And when they go to the deserts, it reminds me so much of like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Indiana Jones or National Treasure, right? And then after that, they go to like Sicily, and it's just like Mamma Mia. It's really bright colors.
Yeah, and the way they're moving, and then she eats the roses.
Yeah, and they're falling in love.
Is that funny to you guys? Did you laugh?
No,
at the
I thought it
rose
was
eating.
I mean, some people call it cringy.
Yeah.
It's just bright, and they're falling in love. Like, you know that, like, they're like they care. I mean, it's fine. Like, I mean, that's
And the little kids in the book, and I just,
yeah, and then like
Mamma Mia.
yeah, and then the movie turns into it has one more turn. It turns into Jurassic World, or it turns into Journey to the Center of the Earth, where there's center of the Earth, there's dinosaurs walking around. You're like, what is this? Like,
Honestly, that was the coolest part of the movie.
it was cool. I like that, but like, there's no context to that. It was literally like it's like the land before time. This stumble into that, and then that's when they fight the big Kraken monster that's voiced by Julie Andrews. But
Yeah, that monster scene where Aquaman is trying to fight that giant monster, whatever it is, and he sort of discovers himself and his own power. That reminded me of Thor Ragnarok too, because Thor had a moment where he was losing and he was beaten down, and then all of a sudden he discovers that he's the god of thunder, and he like makes lightning burst out of his body. Yeah.
And then but that was done well.
That was done well, but it reminded me a lot of it, and it felt weird being thrown around and all these weird, like, almost nostalgic scenes. Like, why would you have dinosaurs? What did they do for the movie at all just to be there, you know?
It didn't even make sense. In the context of this movie, they don't ever reference dinosaurs at all.
No.
Like, I mean, they don't do anything.
No. So I guess in the DC world, dinosaurs still exist.
I guess maybe Aquaman's promoting this idea of Hollow Earth.
Oh, yeah.
You go down deep enough, you
Yeah,
venture into a
maybe.
different realm, perhaps.
That would but when the trench part, I really like the trench part. That was cool with those monsters that they fought.
Yeah,
and
those
everything.
monsters-
I guess that's just when dinosaurs, but
That was right before the dinosaurs.
yeah, that was that was really well done.
I like that.
And then it got really stupid when they find the mom, and she's like, "Oh, are you scared?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm scared." When he's gonna go fight the monster and get the trident, and he's
She's
like,
like, "Good."
"Oh, that means you're ready."
Hell yeah.
Okay.
You know what that reminded me too with his mom when he got reunited with her? Reminded me of How to
Mamma
Train Your
Mia?
Dragon 2.
Oh yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon 2 was the same thing.
Yeah, she's all geared up.
Well,
and,
because he
like-
thinks, because in How to Train Your Dragon, the guy that becomes the king thinks his mom's been dead for years,
and she has like armor,
and she
stuff.
has weird armor, has become a crazy old homeless woman. And then in this movie, it's the same thing. He's like, "Oh, I thought we sacrificed you years ago. The Atlanteans killed you." She's like, "No, I've been living with the dinosaurs for all these years."
Now it just makes me sad that the dad died in the second movie. Because they were finally reunited,
Well, they
right?
bring him back in the
yeah.
third one. You hear his voice in the voiceover for the narration.
Well,
Oh,
it's
no way.
it's like if you saw the trailer, they do a time jump. They go backwards in time.
Yeah,
when
but I'm
he's
just
a
saying they
kid.
bring back that character.
Well, yeah,
voiced
but-
by Gerald
well, they
Butler.
show him.
Yeah, but he's physically dead.
Well, yeah, but they
Oh.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's what is it called? A flashback.
Yeah, it's a flashback. Yeah.
We should talk visuals though.
Yeah.
Because like
Okay.
the only thing that made me want to see this movie was the visuals, because it looked a little bit different than a lot of the superhero movies, being
Especially
underwater,
DCEU.
and the color. And I will say there were some really cool effects, like the jellyfish. Like when he had the eye thing was cool, and like his eyes like can see the light under the water.
Yeah.
That was all really cool, and I liked. I liked when she rode the orca. I was waiting for that. And I wish
Yeah.
there was more like fish integration. There wasn't enough of that stuff.
I liked. I
That's
mean,
the
even
good
this,
takeaway, I guess.
even when they were in Sicily, that whole fight scene with Black Manta, I actually thought that looked really cool. Actually, like if you were just to watch that with the sound off.
Looks like it was a guy in a suit for some of it, which is cool.
I
It was a
also-
real suit.
Yeah, I also think I really believe that the stunt double for Amber Heard in that fight scene was a man in a wig.
It might have been.
I really thought that
Maybe
when it was
one.
happening.
Yeah, look
Wow,
back.
I didn't notice. I really liked the style of Atlantis. I think that it was designed well. It didn't necessarily look real to me. I don't know if it was supposed
Yeah.
to, but I thought that it was pretty beautiful, just with all the like bioluminescence and how they had those like glowing plants and everywhere, and like that was how the city was lit. I thought that was cool. But as for the fish, I know you said you wanted more of them, but in the beginning there's that aquarium scene and all the fish just look so
Yeah.
fake. It just looks like a
That
cartoon.
was bad.
So I don't know if it really would have benefited from more of that.
But
Yeah.
isn't that what makes Aquaman? Aquaman is the fish in the water.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like the whole controlling the fish, because that's like his thing.
That's one of his
I don't
powers.
think that was big enough in the movie. Like
No.
it at the very end. Like I guess it happened for what, like that 15-second push he had at the battle when like they kind of turned the tides and
Yeah.
stopped the fighting. And I guess technically him riding up on the big tentacle Julie Andrews monster was him controlling the fish. Maybe
well, he does control all the fish
because he could understand
at that point.
Yeah, but like I wanted more of that. Like I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a 10-minute, 15-minute sequence. Now he has the fish on his side. They're gonna battle out.
Yeah, well,
but it pretty much like fizzled out after that.
See, I think would have been interesting because, like, I think the suits on Warner Brothers, but their idea for Aquaman was like, we got to make Aquaman hardcore. We got to give him a beard. We got to make him a bro, and we got to like.
He was like a bro hipster, though.
Yeah, he was. He looks like a guy that would work at a coffee shop, kind of, where it's like he's a big buff guy, but like he's wearing a pink polo or something weird like that. Like, I feel like so. Like their idea was like, let's go big rugged guy to play Aquaman because we want to get away from the image of Aquaman being like a Boy Scout with a clean cut blonde hair. But I gotta say, I think if they did that, where he's talking to the fish, it could have been more tongue-in-cheek. Like, if he really was... Like, if you got the right actor to play, like, the Aquaman that you think of, like, an Aquaman that's, like, moderately in shape, blonde hair, like, short blonde hair, and he kind of played up the cheese factor of, like, I'm talking to a fish. I think that could have been a different movie, but, like, I don't know, because this was basically, like, let's make Aquaman this hardcore guy. And that's what they did.
Well, you kind of have to think about it this way. Do you think that the movie would have made as much money from a female audience if Jason Momoa wasn't Aquaman?
No, because, he brought them in.
He brought in all the ladies.
It had to be a guy of at least attractive levels, and you're right. Like, if they got, like, Jack Black to play this other Aquaman, it would have made nowhere near... This movie, as of right now, I looked today on Box Office Mojo, the movie's made $1,020 million. So it's made over $1 billion. It was the 5th highest grossing film last year. The 2nd highest grossing DC movie ever after Dark Knight Rises. And it will eventually surpass Dark Knight Rises in theaters too. So it'll be the highest grossing DC superhero film ever. Mm-hmm. And you're right, like that largely is in part because of Jason Momoa, a person that most Americans and Chinese audiences have never even heard of before he was Aquaman. There's not even a reference point. Most people don't even know he was in Stargate Atlantis. He was in one of the Stargates, and he was in Game of Thrones.
I think some people would at least recognize him. Oh, that's the guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Who
he's only
has a very weak death and is not in it that much. And
but he's not like a household name by any stretch. And now, I mean,
no, they don't know his name. But no, I mean, definitely there was. I think a lot of moms went to it too because of that. I think older ladies like him as well as younger ladies.
It's interesting you mention older ladies just because he's married to Lenny Kravitz's old wife and she's like 13 years older than him.
Nice.
Yeah, she's like, I looked it up. She's like 51, 52. He's like 38, 39, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was younger.
No, he's a little older. Well, I guess now we could talk about a little bit of what our own personal opinions of this movie were and how do we rank it in comparison to other DCEU movies or just even other superhero films that are kind of more recent releases. Matt, what do you think? What is your recommendation? Is this a one-timer, no-timer, and how do you compare it to other DCEU movies?
I think it's a no-timer, even though, you can argue it was fun. I mean, you will laugh while you watch it because it's so bad. I mean, I have to say I did watch it with Marcus, and that I think if I watched it with someone else, it would not be. Definitely. I wouldn't be laughing as much. Like if you watch it with your friends, or someone you can laugh with, if you have that relationship with your parents. But like I was remembering, I'm like I'd rather be like playing Smash Bros or something. Like I'd rather do something else than watch this movie. So it's a no timer for me. I think it is. See, out of the DCEU movies, I mean, Wonder Woman's the best. Yeah, okay, because we're not counting Dark Knight. Like that's a separate.
We're counting everything from Man of Steel to Aquaman.
Yeah, I like Wonder Woman better than this movie. I like Batman vs Superman better than this movie. I have to say I think Aquaman's better than Man of Steel. Man of Steel was one of the most boring superhero movies
it was just boring,
I've ever
not
seen.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, at least I could giggle through this movie. I mean, I don't like coming out of a movie and saying it's fun. I mean, it doesn't make it good for me. So I don't know if I like saying that, but yes, I was more entertained. So it's the third best.
Okay.
That's right. There's only 4, right? Am I counting them all?
No, well, there's Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
And Justice League. I mean, I have to rank them all.
I forgot about
you have to rank them all, but I'm just talking in comparison
Justice,
to those.
You know what? I like Justice League better than this movie.
Okay.
I don't know about Suicide Squad. Yeah, I think this movie is better than Suicide Squad and Man of Steel to me, but the rest of them would surpass it.
Okay. Kylie, what do you think?
Okay. Well, I think Wonder Woman is one of my favorite superhero movies just in general, like even including the MCU, so that's definitely on top for me. And then this one, It's so hard to place it just because I am not a Superman or a Batman fan whatsoever. So I didn't,
Really?
yeah, I didn't.
Not even Batman.
No, I didn't like Batman vs Superman. I didn't like Justice League. I didn't like Man of Steel. So it's hard for me to rank it without bias. I'd say I enjoyed Suicide Squad because I thought it was funny, and I liked the Joker and I liked Harley Quinn and the relationships throughout that movie. I thought it was really entertaining, and so in terms of entertainment, I'd probably rank it third, but maybe in terms of like storyline and whatnot, I'd put it behind Wonder Woman. Even though there's a far gap between them, I think that Wonder Woman is a genuinely good movie. I don't think Aquaman is a good movie, but I'd say it's a one-timer for me, and I'd put it behind Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I would definitely, I give this movie a one-timer just because, yeah, so like Matt referenced that he and I saw it together. The scene when the dad is dying in that submarine was just, I have not laughed so hard in a movie in such a long, I mean, you really, if you go into that scene, like I had no idea it was going to be funny. Like when the dad, dad shoots him with the bazooka. From there, I just start laughing. I mean, like, we're literally spending like 2 minutes watching this dad drown under this missile.
Like this little corridor thing in a submarine.
And it's just, like, the acting is so over. The Black Manta's like, help him. You gotta help him. And he's just kind of half in. I mean, I laughed so hard that, like, it's hard to call it.
I remember.
I mean, it's hard to call it, for me, it's hard to call it a no time, only because I laughed so hard. But to get to Matt's point, like, if you were to watch this movie with a friend that's not really a funny type person, or
doesn't laugh easy.
Yeah, if you're like going on the second date with a girl that you don't really know that well, like you've got you know her somewhat.
Not an early date movie.
Yeah, no, definitely not an early date movie. I mean, if your parents are more like reserved a little bit, like you might just be like, oh my gosh, like I just want to get out of here. So I could totally understand that context as well, where you're like, this is garbage, right? In regards to the DCEU, I mean, I actually kind of like Batman vs Superman, and I kind of like Suicide Squad. I never saw Wonder Woman, but I guess I'd do the same thing, probably third. I really hated Man of Steel. That truly was terrible, for me at least. Justice League, I don't know. I just thought it was very like mediocre. I mean, I'll definitely say this: Aquaman and all the DCEU movies, maybe with the exception of Wonder Woman, only because I haven't seen it, are definitely a far step beneath MCU. I think. I mean, I think most people wouldn't like them as much. I just feel like with Aquaman, yeah, like the people that like it, I just feel like there's no real reason to like it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I didn't think it was compelling at all. It's not compelling. It's not really overly funny. It's not really great even. And I mean, even the CG sometimes you're like, I mean, when I looked over to Matt when they have the big Crabman fight scene at the end, or war with the Crabman, I was thinking like, man, could you imagine like somebody from like the 50s watching this scene unfold? I'd be like, what am I watching? It's almost like, I said the same to Matt when we watched an episode of The Masked Singer. We watched one episode of that, and you pulled someone from the 50s and showed them that, you'd think you're watching a scene from hell.
Yeah.
You saw the bunny with the gimps running around. So the same thing with Aquaman, where you're just watching, like, what am I watching at sometimes?
It's just crazy to me because I think in terms of special effects, they created this beautiful Amazonian world where Wonder Woman lived, and the CGI throughout that movie is pretty good, and the special effects and whatnot, and I'm assuming they had similar budgets, if not a higher budget for Aquaman, and yet the CG was really poor, and it looks like something that could have come out maybe like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, it did look dated.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I mean, it was bright.
It was underwater, which is a different struggle, but
Even underwater, that made it look worse when the people are floating in place.
You know what? The only time in Wonder Woman, though, I thought the bad guy looked bad at the end.
Oh yeah, that looked terrible.
That's what I thought of when I watched this movie, Aquaman. I was like, oh, this kind of looks like the Steppenwolf guy. Is that his name?
Right? Well, that was Justice League.
Oh, sorry.
No, but you're right. In the end, because I've seen the end.
Lupin from Harry Potter. What's his name?
I don't know his name, but Lupin.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the end. I've seen the end of Harry Potter, and that fight scene with that looked really bad. It's like all fiery, and he's like the god of war or something, right?
Yeah,
he's Ares.
Yeah, when he fights her at the base.
No, that looked terrible too.
Yeah. I think that DC really struggles with that. I think they always just try to do too much, and it just ends up being really busy, and like it just doesn't look clean. It doesn't look real.
And I think the biggest problem too with DC, you're totally right, Kylie. I think another thing too is like they just rushed the movies, I think. Like, it
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
look like they
rushed
spent
the whole
any
thing.
time.
The whole DC.
The whole DCU has been rushed, and it looks terrible as a result. I feel like Aquaman could have looked like there's scenes in the film where the characters have like CG hair on their heads because they're underwater, and there's sometimes that hair does not match their heads at all. Like, it looks bad at certain times, and that's all stuff you could fix. If the movie came out 6 months later, it could have been better. I mean, at least visually, effects
Could
wise.
always be better.
Well, I guess that's it for the Aquaman review. In the next episode, we're just going to go back to the normal format of one timer, no timer, and we'll do the 2 movie reviews. This is Marcus, and I'm with Matt and Kylie.
Thanks for tuning in.